everyone, and welcome to In Our Community. Today, I'm going to be reading a story and possibly also one poem. We're going to start with a story first. These are writings of my own, by the way. I'm the author. And both of these pieces have been published. The first one was published in an online magazine called Blue Pepper. I don't remember where the poem was published, but anyway, I'm going to read the poem. I'm going to read the story first, and then if we have time, I'm going to read the poem. I did a practice session recently and was able to do both, so let's see what happens. And if I read a little fast in places, it's because I'm trying to make sure we have enough time, but I generally read very slow, and I'm going to be looking at another screen because I have a bigger monitor here that can help me read better, So it's fun to have you guys on board. Thank you for being here. This story is called A Memory of Loveliness. What is the memory of some imagined loveliness? Flowers, certainly, and roses most assuredly are lovely. The chickadees are slowly walking like tiny chicken hens, strutting, dancing through the blossoming dandelions. These calm chickadees are quite lovely. And I would say that my sister Evangeline, in her way, was lovely. My sister Evangeline, that was her formal name, was a tall, thin girl, all of 13 and a half years. No degree of happiness came to her face, because even at 13, Evangeline was a determined and accomplished girl. Rarely when a smile would light her face, I knew what loveliness was. I could see that Mom was proud of Evie. That was what we called her, Evie. Not because she was good at grooming the hogs for 4-H, or her sewing, or her horse riding abilities. No, I think Mom loved her because she was a girl, soon to be a woman, and Mom, you could tell, was proud of all 5 of her girls and women in general. I think Mom felt that women got the short shrift of things, the short end of the stick. She would not say this out loud, how Evie's voice went up and down and sideways like a piano player piano that needs tuning, or church choir member still drunk from Saturday night rabble-rousing. Mom and Evangeline had a special bond, like Bunny and Clyde or the Little Rascals on the radio. The day my sister Evie hung herself on Grandma's largest oak tree, the ants on the middle anthill were quite mistakenly busy discussing a bologna sandwich. At the time, I knew nothing of what happened. I would not find out for more than a decade. I was trying to explain to the ants that this was not a bologna sandwich. The ham was uptown ham, that the people Mom worked for had given her some uptown Black Forest ham, and them, the ants, ought to damn well appreciate it. I only swore in front of the ants, not in front of the goats, and certainly not near the Banty rooster. The colorful Banty rooster is very quick and will use any excuse to bite me on the heel. Grandpa came up beside me and said, "Boy, Let's go in the barn. I need to talk to you. I thought I was going to get a horsewhipping, but if so, why did Grandpa not have me pick out a green switch from one of the young cottonwood trees that he planted? Soon, son, you know how sometimes when a mare has her foal, she gets sick and sometimes she even dies, like what happened over at Jenner's last year? You know what I mean? Billy Jenner is the oldest boy in the Jenner family. Well, I wish we were best friends, but still, we're pretty close. I could not understand why Grandpa was calling me son. I was his grandson. Grandpa was acting more gentle than usual, more like Grandma than his usual self, and he kept touching me on the shoulder, which was odd. Something that he normally did not do. I figured, certainly somehow, I was in for a whipping, even though this time I did not know what I had done wrong, even though, as usual, I did not feel I deserved one. I remember thinking, why were the ants having such a nice meal and I'm being punished? Anyway, Grandpa said Evie was going away for a while and no one knew when she would come back. I figured she's gotten knocked up without getting married first, and they sent her off to a nunnery or a boarding school. But I was not supposed to know about those things just yet. And what did that have to do with Jenner's mare dying last spring? I have no idea. Mama was crying an awful lot during dinner, and Dad was his usual quiet self. I was busy putting scraps in my overalls for the ants. Our mutt dog Spotty, could who could smell the scraps, whined as usual. Not only was Evie nowhere to be seen, but my cousin Carrie, who lived with us because her stepdad beat her so bad, Carrie was nowhere to be seen either. Maybe she had been sent to bed with no supper. The Melbourne family, who lived a good distance along the railroad track, Mrs. M knocked at the door. She was apologizing for interrupting supper and heard Mom whispering, "He doesn't know." The two ladies, Mother and Mrs. M, had a good cry out on the porch. Mrs. M seemed to know about Evie going off to the nunnery because she brought two cobblers to mark the occasion. One was blackberry and one was strawberry. So Evie going, you see, was kind of paying off in a certain way. At least I thought so at the time. When we visited Grandma and Grandpa, they always, and I mean always, ate with us. Tonight, they were nowhere to be found. Your grandpa had to go into town on business, Dad said, even though the sun had set a while ago already and nothing in town was open. I was hoping to get back home. I wanted to visit the red ants in the moonlight as I gave them scraps that I had collected. Over the years, Carrie and I, of course, fooled around together, as cousins usually do. I did not go too far with her because I did not want her running off to the nunnery. You would have thought Evangeline would come back, but she never did. I finally figured out she probably liked being a nun and was supposed that she gave the baby away. Carrie got married to a football player, and I thought she and Jeffro would certainly leave town, but he did not make the team at Jefferson College. So Jethro went to work at the Ford plant, just like the rest of us. One day, Carrie and I were sitting in her shiny new 1968 Camaro convertible. That car, wow. And Carrie's legs that day, wow. Yes, even though now she was a married woman, we had stayed quite good friends. We, we each told the other our troubles. Today, Carrie was telling me how she and Jethro had been trying for a baby for almost a year and nothing had happened yet. You mean you're not pregnant yet? Yes, dumbbell, Carrie said, straightening out her skirt. Yes, and I wonder if Jethro will eventually leave me. Well, you can always join the nunnery, I said, which was something I had frequently said over the years, any time it was Carrie's turn to tell me her troubles. Carrie turned in her driver's seat and stared straight at me, as though she was going to give it to me with both barrels. Martin, she said. She nearly always called me Marty, not Martin. Martin, I have to tell you something. This seemed more serious than our marital troubles. Carrie, what is it? Evie, Evangeline. Yes, I said. Evangeline never did go into a nunnery or a boarding school or to live with our cousins in Tennessee. Okay, so what happened? Marty, she hung herself. She hung herself to death on that big old oak tree. You know, the one cattywampus of the porch, the one by the middle mailbox side of the porch. Yes, Carrie said. I was in my room doing math problems right there after school. I was concentrating like all get out on long division. And then I happened to look up. She was, well, blue, and her head was at an unusual angle like an overripe cucumber. Then I realized, oh my God, she is up in the damn tree and she is just hanging there. That means Carrie took my hand and started playing with each of my fingernails in turn, which was her way of doing things. I meant to tell you all those years, but your mom and dad don't know that I saw it happen. The silence pronounced itself. The silence stuck solid. Oh my God, Carrie, you've been living with this all this time by yourself? Yes. Oh my God, Carrie, what can I do? I stared at Carrie, and somehow I know it is impossible. I also stared at the same time straight out of the shiny new windshield. I imagined a chickadee on the hood of the car strutting through a field of dandelions. Let's go for a drive, Carrie said. So we did. We took a drive up Route 122 through Ashland, Paintsville, and other parts of northeastern Kentucky. It is pretty this time of year. Thank you so much. I think we'll have plenty of time for the poem, but I just want to thank you. I tried reading it the best I can. I know I made some mistakes. I did practice, but I guess I should have practiced more. All right, let's go over the poem before. I think we're going to have plenty of time at the end. But let me take a drink of my soda pop. I always like soda pop when I'm speaking. Okay, I may put a few notes in this poem. One thing you need to know, it's a speculative poem, which means that the animals in the poem are all made up animals. They don't really exist. They're fictitious. This is like science fiction a little bit, only it's about Christmas. And I consider this poem A Christmas poem for children is what I consider it. I had been told it's not one, but that's what let me. All right, here we go, folks. This poem is called Swan, also known as a blue-tailed swan, which again is a made-up bird, as is every other animal in this thing. The blue-tailed swan, and I refer here especially to the swan that Midwesterners call the Michigan blue-tailed swan. Because it stays ever so briefly in Samatah, Michigan, for only a few days in late December on its migratory journey to the Yukon Territory. That particular blue swan is said to turn its head as it sits in the big oak trees around Lake Swan Shiha. It is said to turn and look toward its very pale tail and call like a crow, ever so briefly, mind you, during its respite in Upper Michigan. Of course, how would we know, really, we humans who track everything? We are not, in fact, on board the flights to the Yukon Territory. Whether one of the two leader birds in their unique double V formation says to the leader of the other part of the famous double V formation, "Hey, Harriet, let's stop up here and visit the Canadian rambast quail." This Canadian quail, being an entirely misnamed bird, it is not in the quail family, and it is too small to be any kind of quail. Rather, it is in the crow family. The myth has it that Santa jaunts down to the Yukon Territory, just a hop and skip, really, from the southern part of the North Pole. Myth has it he talks to the birds, the swans, that is to say, Harriet and her younger brother Ned, and they give Santa something of a report as to how things are going around the world. So many birds bring their reports through the pale tail, Michigan blue-tailed swan, in particular, mind you, and even the reports of the animals with whom they associate. For example, the trapper white lion, indeed a rare breed, it is said to tell the birds of his native Lenosha how he feels things are going in regard to the children of Lenosha, what humans call the Congo. He gives a report to the birds of the area. They work it out so that by the time blue-tailed swans get to the Yukon, they are carrying the news of the entire world. One year, some birds in southwestern Rhode Island refused to participate. And it is true, 7 children in 2 households, or rather 1.5 households, I guess, depending on how you count them. One household is a tree house of particularly sturdy construction, having weatherproofing and such. These children got their presents in the latest part of the Christmas morning. We are saying the red second hand of the clock was sweeping its ever so precisely, intently, like an old janitor's broom, toward, leaning ever and ever more closely, never quite touching, absolute noon. And by absolute noon, I mean 12:00:00 on Christmas morning. So what it's saying is the children just barely got their presents in the morning, like 11:59:58. So if you are a bird and you are reading this poem, no one is letting you just walk away from your duties to inform whomever you are supposed to tell, because everybody's they're getting stuff from all over the world. Whomever you're supposed to tell, giving the information we call the Blue Swan Report, and rightly so. That crow-like call, by the way, is said to be these words: final leg of the journey. Let's go. You'd think they would throw in a Godspeed in there or something, but who can agree on to whom the word God would be referring? At the moment of the famous bird call we were mentioning, the lake is said to create moderately large waves. The waves signal all the blue swans in all the oak trees around Lake Fawn-Sheehaw have properly received the call, and off they go, all the Michigan Bluetailed swans over the Canadian border. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Now, we've got time left. We've got 4 minutes, which is a long time in television. So I'm going to say some things to you about television, about the dear station that I broadcast these programs from. I broadcast them from KMVT. Think of MV as Mountain View. It comes out of Mountain View, California. KMVT 15, and their website, unsurprisingly, is kmvt15.org. It's a wonderful station. It's a community access level station, which means a person can go there and actually learn television. And the way you do that is you take classes, I would say 4 or 5 classes. One is how to be a producer. There's in one of the classes, you learn all the parts of the control room, like let's see, let me go through the control room here. Audio board, a technical director, and I'm missing somebody. And on the floor, you've got floor manager, 3 cameras. So it's a good crew, and you learn all those spots. You learn floor manager, you learn camera, you learn audio. So it's a wonderful place. You can go there and pay a little fee. It's for today, it's very small. And learn all that stuff and actually start your own television show on KMVT. I did just that back in 2001. I don't remember which year. And I've been doing a show ever since, 23 years. So it can be done. And it's just, it's like anything. If you put a lot into it, you'll get a lot out of it. If you don't, and you don't go there and you don't want to do TV, just don't. But it's a great place to check out. Their website gives you their address. Like I say, they do classes. It's a very fun place. So I'm going to say to you that all the years I've been doing this, I appreciate the audience. I appreciate you, the audience. It's a rare thing to be able to have the privilege. I know when I used to live in San Jose, I would drive my car up the freeway and I would look at the skyline of San Jose. And bear in mind, I'm a modest kid from Ohio, small town in Ohio, Vermillion, Ohio. And I, didn't know that I'd amount to much in this life. So I look at the skyline as I'm driving up to KMVT and I go, I am a TV producer. I own a TV show. And for me, that's a hoot. That's fun. I mean, it's a small show on a community access station, but by golly, it's fun. And for some people, it leads to something bigger. Not always, but we're going to have an alarm go off here in about 29 seconds. I love you guys. Please take care. This has been Marc Isaac Potter reading his work to you, and the show is called In Our Community. Thank you very much.